So what exactly can you do in the Sandbox Metaverse project today, early 2023? Join me as we'll peel off some of the marketing layers that the Sandbox carefully built up on their YouTube and website, along with their influencers, and we'll kind of uncover what you can and cannot do in the Sandbox right now. I'm George, I'm the founder of UnfoldVR, and we're building creator tools for the metaverse. So naturally, I was interested in looking into the Sandbox, Decentraland, and other metaverse projects, decentralized or not, just to understand how they treat their creator economy, what tools do they offer, and just the ins and outs of how they work. And I have to say, by far, the Sandbox has challenged me most, because just by going through their marketing materials and the videos and the website, it's very hard to understand what you can actually do, and you really need to go very deep down the rabbit hole to really understand the limitations of the Sandbox. Because even if after you make an account, after you do some of the primitive steps of just joining the Sandbox, it's still not clear if indeed you can access some things, if indeed you can do some things or not. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Sandbox is one of the most premier metaverse projects out there. And just a few months back, they were eyeing a $400 million funding round, which alas didn't go through, but it would have valued them at over $4 billion. So this is a huge project. It's not just your random metaverse app. Even without this funding, they still have around 90 something million dollars in funding to date. So let's see what they managed to do with all that cash. Well, for one thing, they did an exceptional good job at marketing their product. If you go through their websites and the YouTube videos of them and influencers promoting the Sandbox, you'll be left with the impression of a thriving metaverse where you can buy land, build stuff on that land, invite people over, have very fun experiences, monetize your artworks and your experiences as a creator in this like uniform environment, which is pixelated looking, but still very nicely polished. And when you dive into it, you have kind of this expectation because this is what's being put out. In this video, I will go through what can you do with the land, what can you do as a creator in terms of creating experiences and assets for those experiences and for your avatar, and how those experiences play out, what can you actually do in the Sandbox in terms of interactions, and also touch upon the decentralized aspect of the Sandbox. Now, let's jump into the land aspect. So if you look at the materials, you see that you can buy land, and that is true. I guess all metaverse projects, big or small, kind of play this winning card, which is selling land. One of the first things that you'll see is this map tab. And here you see all these fancy brands who have purchased one or multiple land slots and just essentially paste their branding on top. And you see some popular names here. The Sandbox reserves some spots for themselves, and there's also so many empty spots, which are these non-branded squares. But if you are looking at any of these squares, including the branded ones, let's say Shaun the Sheep, you can't actually do anything to interact with this. You can read a description and a link, perhaps about the project, and that's about it. If you read this prompt here, what you can do with land, you can start building, you can earn special rewards, you can do staking, you can sell. So all of these are speculative things, and the building part can happen without owning any land. And then finally you can publish and monetize your experience in 2023. So it's mostly a pixel marketing map, and that's about it. So with the Sandbox, like with any decentralized app, you can trade assets as NFTs or as tokens. So that's the bread and butter of any decentralized project. So you can do that with the Sandbox. They have a full pipeline for doing that. They support multiple wallets, multiple marketplaces. All of that is functional. All of that works. So if you're into metaverse projects strictly as an investor or as a speculator trying to make a profit or just gamble, you can do that with the Sandbox. If, however, like me, you're more interested in the actual experience of the metaverse, in the potential of the metaverse as, the next digital frontier, when you look at land and what you can do with that land, the answer is pretty much nothing. So if you have a land, you can build an experience on it, but nobody will be able to visit that experiences. That's just for you, and you can build those experiences again without owning any land. But I said you can build experiences on these lands, and you can actually play experiences in the Sandbox. But what's up with that? So which experiences can you play? Well, if you dive into the map, you will see how you can play curated experiences that are actually on a separate map that is somewhere in the void, has nothing to do with the land map that you can actually purchase. And these are experiences created by the Sandbox team and sometimes by partners of the Sandbox. This is not something that you as an average user will ever be able to put out here. These are highly curated, partnership driven mini experiences that you can play. And these will also vary from time to time. So some of these experiences will be live for a month, for 2 months, and they're all bundled in what the Sandbox calls seasons. So one season might have 10, a dozen such experiences. Some would come, some would go, and you can collect points. And again, we go into all this speculative aspect of the Sandbox, where if you make these experiences very fast and you are top in their leaderboard, you might actually get some of their coins as a reward. But when it comes to the experiences themselves, let's actually jump into some of them and see what they actually do. So as you can see, some of these experiences are single player, some are multiplayer. What's very important to know is that unlike any other established multiplayer game, you have essentially zero control of servers and with whom you actually play these experiences.
Essentially, I have to collect a whole bunch of lucky red envelopes, much like the one put right in front of me. So this is actually the premise of most of the experiences built on the Sandbox, which is essentially to collect stuff from this metaverse world. On the metaverse, you'll see some people that are actually real life persons like this guy, but most of them will be just NPCs, so these would be non-playing characters. These are predefined AI characters. Let's get this one. And you see there is a bit of a crowd here, but it's nowhere near like a huge amount of people. If you were to cut off all these non-playing characters that are essentially doing nothing, you'd be left with very much an empty land here. All the aspects that would make a metaverse, which include interacting with other users, persistency, things that I can build into this world, all of these are not here that much. So that's it. This is the most significant experience that you can play right now in the Sandbox metaverse.
So one thing that you notice in the experience is that you have an avatar, and we actually haven't touched upon this. The avatar is perhaps the only persistent element of the Sandbox ecosystem right now. So in the future, your land and the experiences and the creations that you put onto your land will be persistent, and everybody that will come there will see you. And I guess the land map is a persistent thing, so those logos are there. But other than that, your avatar is the only persistent thing, and persistency is a crucial aspect of the metaverse. So you can configure your avatar with some free accessories, or you can purchase or actually win some other accessories that you can equip your avatar with. And the premise of this is that your avatar, gradually becomes kind of a reflection of who you are as a person in this digital reality of the Sandbox. And I guess you have some customization options for the Sandbox. Obviously, it's all a stylized style, But what Sandbox kind of claims you can do is actually build up your own avatar accessories. And that's very, very misleading from several points of view. It's only partially true, because with the Sandbox, you can create avatar props and you can actually visualize them. You can create actually your own avatar 3D model, but you can't put that into the live game. You can't mint that as a 3D NFT. You can kind of stage it as a 3D NFT and bring it into your dashboard and see it. You can see it in their creation tools, but you'll not be able to mint it as an NFT unless you are a hand-picked artist or designer or developer through a program that is now closed and it's not running anymore. So technically, if you're not already into this program, or you're not, I don't know, a super partner of the Sandbox, there's no way you'll be able to put any kind of content related to your avatar on the Sandbox environment in a live manner. And when it comes to creations, you can create not only avatar elements, but also elements that go into those interactive experiences. And the Sandbox actually has all this pipeline set up. So you can model any kind of geometry using their voxel tools. You can even animate that geometry. You can bring it into your dashboard, and from your dashboard into your game maker app and into your interactive experience. And you can actually play and run around your creations. So this is all amazing. But again, nothing of this is going to go live on the blockchain so that other people can use them. So I'm not even talking about selling them or trading them, just use them in a live environment. You can't do that. I think this all comes down to the final aspect of the Sandbox that I want to touch upon, which is the decentralization aspect. The metaverse as a decentralized ecosystem has a much better chance of grasping roots, because it empowers the community to create content, and you need massive amounts of content for any metaverse projects to be successful. So the Sandbox is a decentralized option. It runs on Ethereum / Polygon blockchain network. But if you look deep down into how exactly it uses the blockchain technology, you'll be left with a pretty sour conclusion, which is kind of all the benefits of blockchain technology are used in the advantage of the Sandbox app and the Sandbox, the companies behind the Sandbox, and almost zero benefits are used towards the consumers and the actual users. So the main benefit for the players of the Sandbox and the users is the fact that assets sit as NFTs, and you can trade them on open markets such as OpenSea. And that's a great benefit. So there isn't a centralized authority that kind of limits what you can do and what you can buy with them. And because they are public NFTs, other projects other than the Sandbox can actually recognize those same NFTs and embed them into their project. So the users actually have a win from this aspect. But that's about it. That's where the benefits for the users end. For all the marketing hype that they go to great lengths to put out there, the decentralization aspect, I think, is the least touched upon. So I have more confidence that you'll be able to actually visit other people's lands and invite friends to those and have meaningful multiplayer experiences. I have more confidence that this will be a reality in the coming months than that the Sandbox will be a truly decentralized environment where users will be able to impact meaningful aspects of the project, such as how much land is put out there, what percentages are being used for royalties and rewards, all these aspects that actually impact the ecosystem. To wrap this up, again, I will say the Sandbox has amazing potential. I think it can actually be one of those projects that will bring new audiences to the metaverse idea, to the metaverse ecosystem. but I just think it's a bit too early, and you have to be careful with their marketing materials because they paint a picture that just isn't there yet. It's probably the picture of the sandbox 1-2 years into the future. So have that in mind. If you want to speculate and invest in assets around the sandbox, do that. If you want to have fun in the sandbox as a metaverse project, I'm afraid unless you are in the younger demographic, it's probably very hard to do that. You're probably not going to stick around for long. Hopefully they will realize this and actually focus a bit more on the actual experiences that users can have in the sandbox. I'm very interested what you think about the sandbox. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you're curious what we at UnfoldVR are doing for this new interactive creator economy and what tools are we building, again, check into the description of this video for more links about UnfoldVR. Until next time, I'm George.